Okay, like I said, my name is Lowell Lingo. I'm the Aviation Bureau Director for New York State Department of Transportation. I'll be speaking to you first about the general rules of the program, of the AirNY program. Then Dina Alluri will talk to you about some civil rights concepts that Wanda used to talk to you about in previous years. Then Jeff Bila, who's spoken at these before, he was the expert in Grants Gateway. Now he's the expert at SFS Grants Module. So that will be a huge change for you guys. How you get us the information will be through SFS Grants Module rather than Grants Gateway. So you'll want to stay for his session after hours. Governor Hochul announced on October 3rd, 2024, the kickoff for our AirNY grant program. We rebranded a little to give a nod to the original Air 99 program started by Governor Pataki 25 years ago. The rules are the same, but the new name is Airport Investment and Revitalization for New York Grant Program, or AirNY for short. Today, we're going to go through the solicitation basics, the key dates, which projects are eligible, who are the eligible applicants, which airports, grant award details. Then we'll get into the details of the solicitation, scoring and selection process, the smart growth requirements. We'll go through the MWBE and EEO requirements. We'll go through tips on preparing your applications. We're going to push the question and answers to the end. Typically, we have this optional, it used to be the Grants Gateway piece because you guys have all done it before, but really this isn't optional. You guys should all stay. So the SFS Grants Management detailed walkthrough will be after the tips and for preparing your applications, then we'll do question and answers at the end. Next slide, please. So the applications, we highlighted it on purpose. They're due January 22nd at 5 p.m. Now, we gave you guys a ton more time for two reasons. One, we're, a small community of airports, really. We probably got 75, right, that are eligible about. So, but we only have a few consultants that are helping with all these applications. And if we give you 4 weeks to do that, nobody's available to actually do it. So we want really high quality applications. We want to give you guys enough time to think about what you want to do, get your consultants on board, do everything you have to do to get really good estimates. So we want really good, take your time on your applications. Don't wait till the last minute. Give you time to get your consultants on board, get through all your municipal processes to get to your boards and all that kind of thing. So we're giving you till January 22nd. So hopefully that's helpful. All SFS questions are going to go to helpdesk@sfs.ny.gov. And then any questions other than SFS questions will be aviation@dot.ny.gov. We'll post that we'll post those emails in the chat so you can copy and paste them if you'd like. So eligible projects. The grant program is open to public use airports, which are listed in the current state airport system planning categories 1 through 4. Eligible program activities include, but are not limited to, work on capital facilities, including construction, reconstruction, improvement, reconditioning, or preservation. It includes equipment, navigational aids, and a couple of years ago, one airport didn't put in a minimum service life of 10 years, even though that particular piece of equipment did have a service life of 10 years, and I had to reject them. So make sure that your projects have a minimum service life of 10 years and then actually put it in your application. Eligible applicant airports. I already said that. One thing I did not say is you've got to have a current ALP with the FAA if you're federally obligated, or if you don't have an ALP already with the FAA, you have to have one with us. So make sure that you have your ALPs up to date. Next slide, please. Compliance. You got to make sure you're in compliance with the 2004 anti-terrorism legislation. What is that? That is our approved, make sure you have your approved New York State registration and security plan. So we call it the registration and security plan. Make sure those are up to date as well. Airports need to make sure they meet all FAA requirements. Grant award details. So funding available this time is $25 million, which is the typical. Last time we kind of got caught up. Right now we're caught up with all the budgets right now up to 2024. So we had the opportunity to get to $49 million last time, which was really cool because we got to a lot of these smaller airports that typically don't win these awards. But again, we're back to $25 million, which is the typical every other year program that we'll have. 2 applications are allowed, 1 award max per airport. The maximum award was increased last time to $2.5 million. It will stay at $2.5 million. The application materials. Make sure you look at our website. Again, make sure you look through the NOFA. That's what you're getting graded on. Look through the smart growth materials, the FAQs, and make sure you're really familiar with those. Hopefully you've already done it since the program's already been out for a month so far. And that's all I have for that slide. Next slide, please. Scoring and selection process. So before submitting, make sure you check our website again for any important updates. The Q&As will be updated every week as we go through the process and get additional questions. So again, make sure you keep checking the website even before you submit if you've already checked it. Smart growth checklist. It's only required if you answer yes to any of the threshold questions. If you do have any questions on that, please let us know at aviation.dot.ny.gov. So application, scoring and selection process. As you guys know, there's a first set of questions that are pass-fail. Those are all clearly marked. We'll talk about them today. There's 3 different scoring categories, and we have an independent team reviewing those scoring categories aside from the pass-fail. Then you've got smart growth requirements, and like I just said, if you only have to do the smart growth checklist if you answer yes to any of the threshold questions. Next slide, please. Okay, so these are the scoring factors. Here, these are basically the same from the last program. You got project factors are economic benefit, operational efficiency, safety improvements, innovation and creativity, energy efficiency and emission reduction. All of those categories add up to a total of 55 points. The application factors, right, the quality of your grant application are 15 points. And then the airport factors that are formula-based are potential for attracting aviation activity. That's based on your county, the county economics and your the economic impact of aviation for your airport specifically. So that's one formula. Your matching share that you're putting in is the second formula. Past experience managing grants. That's the third formula. That's if you needs time extension if you're doing scope reductions, right? So that affects the past experience managing grants. For a total score of 100 points, it should be noted that the airport factor points increased from 25 to 30. So there's additional 5 points in those airport factors. So next, I'd like to introduce Dina Alori. She will be talking a little bit about the civil rights requirements.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Dina Olori from the Office of Diversity and Opportunity. So I'd like to go over some of the requirements for the MWBE and SDVOB programs. So under New York State Executive Law, Article 15A, state agencies are required to encourage minority and women-owned businesses or business enterprises. And then under New York State Executive Law, Article 17B, for service-disabled, veteran-owned businesses to make sure that they have equal opportunity to receive and participate on 100% state-funded contracts. There are some minimum contract thresholds noted on this slide that are required to have goals on their contracts. So first of all, you can see the MWBE goals. We start at $25,000 for contracts with labor, services, equipment, materials, or a combination of both. And then the minimum contract threshold for $100,000 is for any real property renovations and construction. Excuse me. So how do we come to our goals? So the New York State Department of Transportation, we establish MBE and WBE goals each fiscal year, and our fiscal year starts in April, based off of the historical data from all projects across New York State. So the current MWBE goals are 8% minority and 10% for women on construction contracts, and then 20% minority and 10% women for consulting and engineering contracts. The contract goals are subject to change based on the fiscal year of the awarded agreement. So we do currently have our newer goal plan under review. So by the time that you may have grants, these goals may change, but Aviation will let you know what exactly they are. So also the SDVOB goal is always 6% for all non-federal aid contracts. That does not change. It's 6% regardless of contract type. Also, it is important to note that the MBE, WBE, and SDVOB goals are individual goals. They are not goals that are combined. So for example, if your goal is 8% minority and 10% women and 6% SDVOB, it is not an overall goal of 24. Each of those goals have to be satisfied. And so also as a sponsor, we encourage you to review your project contract goals on an individual basis, because if the established goals that we've noted in the previous slide are not reasonable for your project, you can request a modification to those goals. The modification to the established goals will be in the form of a waiver and will need to be approved by ODO and the Empire State Development ESD. So if approved, then you as a sponsor can advertise the project with the approved waived goal. This is the only time during the life of the project that the sponsor has the opportunity to request the modification to the established goals. This slide, I'd like to talk about the equal employment opportunity goals we refer to as the EEO goals. So women goal is always 6.9%, but depending on where your project is located, they vary throughout the state. And you can see this particular slide is specific to if you're down in New York City. It not only has individual goals, but then it further breaks it down into different scopes of work. If you could go to the next slide, please. So this is more reflecting of the counties throughout New York State. So as you can see here, so say for instance, let's pick a larger one. So say if you're down in Rockland County, your minority goal is going to be 22.6 versus the more rural counties, say Broome County is only 1.1%. So it's really important to know that as well. So if you have any questions on these afterwards, feel free to ask. And that's all I had for these two slides. So now I will hand it back over to Lowell.
Thanks, Dina. Okay, so let's go through the preparing and submitting application and the tips and tricks. So I'm literally going to read this slide. So once you're ready to submit your application, first step, go to our website. Again, check that nothing has changed, go through all the questions, make sure the deadline hasn't changed, etc. Read all relevant materials, prepare your documents and answers, log in and start your application at https://sfs.ny.gov. You have to get an account for SFS. If you're a larger county, you probably already have SFS because that's what other agencies have been using for a while for their grants, right? But make sure you do that. If you haven't done it already, do it right now. Do it this week. Get in, ask any questions you've got. Make sure you know who everyone has their roles in SFS, and you know, just play around in there. Get a feel for it. It's a whole new program for us. All right. Fourth step. Fill out the application. The required fields are marked with a red star. Project data, pass, fail, we talked about this. The pass, fail questions are vendor questions 1 through 11, right? Super important, right? We can't pass you if you accidentally screw one of those up, all right? So really make sure that those are correct. Check them. Smart growth threshold questions. Do your description and justification fields. They expand but are limited to 2,000 characters, so cut and paste from Word or whatever you'd like to do. But note that custom paste may alter the character format, so please proofread after you cut and paste into the SFS grants module. Project budget upload. You're going to enter your amounts and your local share. The next step, print your application to PDF or hard copy. And then the sixth step is submit your application and attach supporting material, smart growth, checklist as needed. And the only role allowed to submit applications is, this is new term, bid response submitter. So bid response submitter, I think I'll say it again, and Jeff will say it a couple times, but you need to know who that is, right? They can't be on vacation on the 22nd, otherwise you're screwed. All right, so bid response submitter, know who it is, make sure they're there before you submit. By the way, don't submit on the 22nd. Maybe a snowstorm or something crazy, all right? Submit these things early, we're giving you tons extra time. Next slide, please. Okay, some tips. Become familiar with the NOFA and the grant program guidelines. The best way to, we've written lots of applications for federal funds. They have NOFOs. You've got to respond with literally the language that's in the grant program guidelines, right? So whether it's federal or state, if they ask for a specific thing, literally repeat it, right? Repeat it and say, this is what I'm doing. Print and follow your application instructions. Gather all your information necessary to complete the application. Become familiar with SFS roles, training, et cetera. This is super important because the first time you guys will go, the aviation guys are going to be going through it. Maybe other people in your county have already done it or municipality, but It's the first time aviation's doing it. So get familiar with SFS, do it early. Cut and paste lengthy entries into the application, then proofread, like I said before. Save often. Be sure to look for error flags at the top of the page. In SFS, the error flag is at the top of the page and it'll flag it if you've got something wrong with your application, so just check there. Bid response submitter must submit the application by the deadline with all supporting documentation uploaded. Save and print the application for your records. Okay, so again, I'm giving you lots of time so you guys can get resolutions, things like that through your boards, etc. We're hoping we get really high quality applications because we're giving you enough time to really think through what you guys want to do, make sure you get the right pieces in place, do really good estimating. Obviously, we've had crazy inflation over the last few years since COVID. That seems to be settling down a little bit. So we don't really have that excuse anymore. I really want you guys to do a good job with your estimates. I do not want to be doing scope reductions in the future. And I don't want to be doing time extensions. So do a really good job with your application, do your homework. And we hope you guys all, we hope you all win. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Jeff Fila, and he will go through SFS, some slides, and then he'll actually go right into SFS Live. So with that, I'll mute and hand it over to Jeff. Thanks.
My name is Jeff Fila. I work with the grants management team. Some of you may have interacted with me before with the Grants Gateway. In January of 2024, we changed the state's grant system from the Grants Gateway to grants management in SFS. SFS is the statewide financial system, and they added this as a module to SFS. So while SFS has been around for many, many years, this new module is, like I said, new, starting in January. So it certainly is a bit different. I'm not going to say it's harder. It's really not. There's definitely some improvements. The terminology is a little different, and some things are a little kind of hard to remember the terminology, but it's not too bad. One big thing about it, though, is the roles. If you've ever used the Grants Gateway to apply for grants before, every account had only one role, and that role could do certain things, and there was overlapping things that they can do between different roles, but you had to have one role. And if you didn't have the right role, you'd have to get a new account. That's not the way it works in SFS. In SFS, you have one account, and what we call the delegated administrator at your organization would assign the right role. So it's important to first, of course, have the right roles. And that's this last, it's not letting me annotate. The last bullet point here, there's a role guide that you should look through. So the grants management state tile, again, unfortunately, it's not letting me highlight here, is a tile on the main page when you log in. And if you have the right roles or you have any grants management roles, you'll see that tile. Okay, so here we are. You get to the grants management state tile, and if you have the right role, you have this bid event search tile. And you would click on that to get into the bid event. So in the gateway, it was called a grant opportunity, which kind of makes sense. Bid event is kind of a weird term, but that's what it is in SFS. So it's called a bid event, and you're going to be applying to a bid event. Next slide. So you can search for bid events, and really, it's so easy, just search for the word air. So in event ID, we're going to search for the word air. Yeah, you can search by opportunity and dates and agency, but we're just going to click in event ID and search for the word air. That's just the easiest way to do it. You can see in the bottom, my last bullet point here, it says search for event air 24. Yeah, you can do that, or you can just search for the word air. All right, next slide. So what are the elements of responding to a bid event? What does your application include? So first of all, we just want you to review the key dates, information, and instructions. There's a lot of good instructions out there. So you should go through them first, read them first, and be prepared. I'm going to show you the NOFA in a few minutes where they have the questions. And I wouldn't even bother logging into SFS. I mean, of course, I would try to make sure everything works. But I wouldn't really bother starting your application until you're pretty much ready to go, right? You've answered all your questions, maybe in a Word document, like Lowell was saying before. You've got all your attachments ready. You've got them, saved all in the same folder and labeled right, so you remember what is what. And then it's just a matter of going into the system and, uploading your attachments and answering your questions. So that's what that kind of reviewing key dates, information, and instructions part is. So then you're going to go into the system. You're going to answer the general questions. There's contact information and an address, and you can't save your application until you answer those two things: your contact information and address where the funds would be used or spent. So that's just the way the system is set up. You can't save it until you do those two things. Then you go in and you update the questions. You answer their questions. Hopefully, again, you've already written them down, and you're just doing a copy-paste from Word. Lowell might have mentioned, he did mention before, that there's some oddities when you copy and paste from Word. First thing is, what are they? Parentheses apostrophes and quotes would show as an upside down question mark, which is very odd. It's a bug in not SFS, but PeopleSoft, the code of PeopleSoft that apparently has been around for a long time. So you're not going to get dinged or marked off for having these upside down question marks, but if you notice them, it's probably a good idea to fix them. And you won't notice them until you hit the save button. So you'll respond to the application questions set up by the agency, you'll upload and attach documents, and then you'll submit your total bid amount. That last part, I'll show you, I'm not actually positive about it because I haven't done one of these in our test system the way this is set up, but we'll find out in a few minutes. There's one little line on the bottom of the page that says, what is your total bid amount? So what's the total amount of grant funds you're asking for? So I'll show you that. That's the note here. DOT has turned off the built-in SFS budget and work plan sections. They're not required. If you've ever worked in an application before, you might have seen work plan or budget. They're not part of this application. They're part of the attachments you're going to upload in Excel format. Next slide, please. So there is that my top screenshot here shows bid on event. That's how you'll start your application. And then the kind of reviewing information is all these other highlighted parts in the screenshot below. The start date, end date, the anticipated award dates, which really are quite into the future. And the event comments and attachments, which I'll show you, is not really going to help you here because they don't have any attachments for you. So this is just a generic slide just to kind of look at, kind of level set. What am I looking at? What is really the important thing on the dates? And of course, you should know the dates. Next slide, please. So these are those questions that I said you have to answer before you're allowed to save the page. So I've highlighted those two or circled them or highlighted them in square red boxes. The site project address, you would click on that and it'll be a pop-up, and then name, telephone, email. You need to fill those two things out, and only then will you be able to save the page. So next page, please. So this is what the questions look like, and Lowell said some have red stars, and you can see some here, and that's a required field. Most of them are required questions, and you have to answer them, or else the system won't let you submit it. So you'll see when I get into our test system, I didn't set up the entire application. I did a handful of questions, but a good enough amount of them to show the different types of questions you'll encounter, and I'm going to purposely not answer one or two to show you what kind of errors you receive. So there is the Save for Later button at the top there. I've highlighted that in red. That's how you save your progress. So make sure you do that every few minutes. Every 5–10 minutes should be fine, because you certainly don't want to lose your progress. You don't want to go through scrolling, answering questions, and then forget to save, and you go to lunch, and then you lose it all, right? Or you get a call and you get distracted. So make sure you're hitting Save for Later as you go through. There's a little tip I wrote in the bottom left, previous page here. Little tip I wrote in the bottom left here, which is sometimes if you copy and paste your text from Word, it might exceed the character limit. So these text boxes, like the big one on the bottom of that screenshot, only allow for a maximum of 2,000 characters. So you might encounter that, and you're going to have to deal with being able to fit things in those boxes. So next slide, please. And this is that unit bid price on the bottom. It usually ties into the built-in SFS budget, which we're not using, but I believe we still have to enter it, and we'll find out together in a few minutes. Next page. And by the way, the submit bid was on the bottom left. We'll do that, and here it is again. Submit bid, we can submit that. That's how you submit your application. It'll, of course, give you errors if you haven't completed everything. So this is the last section. It's the event comments and attachments page. You don't have to click it. You can see I didn't highlight it there, but it says event comments and attachments. That's going to be empty. So there's really nothing to click on, but I'll show you anyway, just to kind of show you what it does. And then note, DOT has not made any attachments available, so it's not required, like I said. And then there's that submit bid on the bottom. Validate entries, let me just do that one more time, back to that page. Validate entries in the bottom right there. It's pretty much an error check. It basically just goes through and says, and it's going to look for any required fields that you missed. So really no need to do that, because when you hit the Save for Later button, it does the same thing. Okay, next page. This seems like a duplicate. Let's go to the next page. Okay, so how do you find in-process bids? You don't have to do it all in one sitting, but once you save the page, you can go find it again. So you can go back in as if you were searching for the grant that you started, and then instead of actually clicking on the grant or clicking on bid on event, so Allison, if you can move your cursor to the top left where it says bid on event, instead of clicking that, you would click down to that one in process down there, and you can see, oh, I've got one application in process, and if you look over on that right screenshot, I can view or edit it. So you can't edit it if it's already been submitted, but when you see the word edit, that means, of course, it hasn't been submitted. And we can tell because the bid status is saved in that screenshot there, not posted. So the event has been posted, of course, you're applying to it, but your bid has only been saved, not yet posted. Okay, next page. So common mistakes here, and we left some things crossed out here, and I just want to explain why, but not starting early enough. You know, we've tried to say that several times. Don't wait till the last day or even the last week. You know, give yourself enough time. You may run into technical problems. You may run into something that you realize is going to take you a lot longer than you originally anticipated. Starting the application, people get confused about it, and it is confusing because there is the name of the grant opportunity and the event ID. Clicking on the name only gives you information about it. You actually have to click on the ID to actually start the application. Once you save the page for later, make sure to scroll to the top to look for error messages, because it may not save it if there's something that was an error. And there's a little nuance to that. I'll show you what I mean by that. I crossed out missing the budget, because if you ever run across any other instructions in SFS about the budget and work plan, ignore it, because we don't have that turned on in this application. So budget, work plan, those bullet points, ignore those. But forgetting to enter the unit bid price amount is an issue. That's the thing I said. I'm not positive how it's going to react, and we're going to do that in a few minutes. Another issue is not realizing how to locate an in-process application. I have people that tell us, I can't find my application, so I start it again. Well, don't do that. I just showed you how to do it, and I'll show you again when we get into the system. And then not saving all required uploads. There certainly are pages that you need to upload things into, or questions, and you know, make sure you do that. And I would add to that, make sure that you are you double check what you've uploaded. You don't want to upload a picture of your dog when it's asking for your budget. You know, the system doesn't care what it is, it just knows that it's an upload. And then if any not-for-profit organizations were applying, pre-qualification would be an issue. So next slide. I think it's going to get me into the system next. Yeah, we can do this one now. So it is important to set up the vendor portal access, the user accounts, and you have to have the right roles. The bid event roles, there's 3 of them, and that's listed in, we have you can see there's a video linked on the bottom left there in our last bullet point, but it's important, this is a really important thing I want to make is that second bullet point. We want your users to be set up with the description field as last name, comma, first name. So, yep, exactly where you're being shown here. So Doe, comma, John there, right? Because that's what shows in the application that gets submitted. So if you put in your description as, you know, division manager or something, we don't know who submitted it. It's just a little quirk there in the way the roles are set up. So please make sure any users that are set up, they're set up with the description saying last name, comma, first name. And their username can be whatever you want. Next slide. And we'll get to this later. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to get into, let me close a couple things here on my screen. Okay. Okay. So the first thing is I want to go back into, I'm going to go to SFS and the live system and show you how this works. So if you just go to sfs.ny.gov, you'll see this welcome page, and there's this vendors link. And it's a little confusing because the word vendors appears 3 times here, and they kind of all do different things. So I don't want to log in yet. I want to click on vendors right here. And you can see on the bottom left, you can search for grant opportunities. And that's what I want to do. And from here, this is where I said you can just type in the word air. Doesn't even have to be capitalized, and you hit search. And we search for it, and there's only one grant in the whole state that has the word air in it, so that's a lot easier to find. Now, notice these are all capital letters. Let's say I want to search for the word airport in the opportunity name. So if I clear the criteria and I search for airport, but not capitalized, I won't find it. So that's an oddity here. This one field is case sensitive, which is why I say it's just a heck of a lot easier just to write the word air in the event ID and search for it. So right now, we haven't logged in yet. We just want to look at the opportunity. And if I click on this, it gives us kind of an overview of the information here, but it does give us links to the Aviation Grants website. And if we clicked here, view grant opportunity, it would do the same thing. So if I click that, it brings me to the DOT website, and here's the Air Capital Grant Program Solicitation website. I wanted to point this out. They've, of course, talked about this at length during the previous part of the webinar, but I wanted you to get to the NOFA here, and obviously the frequently asked questions. All these things are obviously important. But in the NOFA, if you go down here and you go to the appendix section, starting on page 11, these are the instructions and these are the questions. As I scroll down here, here are a little checklist to make sure you've done things properly, and here are the questions. You're going to need to fill out your project site address. You're going to need to fill out the airport owner information. So there's actually individual questions for each one of these line items. So you're going to enter the owner salutation, Mr., Dr., whatever. That'll be an option. The next question is the first name. Next question is last name. Next question is suffix, and so on. So these are the questions you're going to have to answer. Now, of course, you don't really have to write this in a Word doc. You might know this information already, but if you have it prepared, it'll be a lot easier. But don't prepare it in one item because these are going to be separate questions. Same thing for the primary contact. We ask for their salutation, first name, last name, email, mailing address, phone number, etc. And then there's some yes and no type questions. Is the airport that is applying for funds a public use airport? So this would be a yes, no type question. Yes, no type questions. So there's some yes, no questions. And then there's the smart growth questions. You can see they're labeled here, question 12, 13, 14. They go on. How about this, number 15, a brief 2 to 3 sentence overview of the project. So these are all the questions that you should be prepared to answer ahead of time. There are also some list questions. Pick from a list. What is the status of your seeker? Is it not started? You would select that first option. Is it in process? Is it a record of decision issued? So there's some questions that are going to be you pick from a list. So I'm not going to go through them all, but of course, this is that list of questions, and you do need to make sure that you address them all. Now, in my test environment that I set up, I don't have all the questions. I put in a sample of them. They're not even written exactly the way they were in the final one, but it's just a sample to show you how the system actually works. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Instead of being in the live site, I'm going to go into our test site, and I have a login for a test vendor. And if you did log in and you did have the right roles, you would see this grants management state tile, and I do. And when I click on it, I can see I've got the bid event search and bid response search fields. So bid event, find a new one. Bid response, I can actually find when I started, but I can also do that here from bid event search. Other information, so if I'm a not-for-profit, I can get pre-qualified, if I have contracts. So you probably won't have these or you won't need these because DOT is not using this system for contracts. So let's click on bid event search. And again, I'm going to search for the word air. This looks exactly like the same page we saw before, not being logged in. But once we're logged in, it's a little different because it's got the event ID and the opportunity. Now, notice there's this other one here just because I've tested this several times in the system. But remember, if you click on the opportunity, it doesn't let you apply. It just shows you information about it. So then I'm going to click back to return to search, and instead we need to click on the ID. I click on the ID, and it tells me this is the ID, this is the abstract about it, and I can see I have not started any bids yet. So let's change that. Let's bid on the event. So that's starting your application is clicking the bid on event link. Okay, so if you remember from the PowerPoints, the first thing I have to do is this step 1, answer the general event questions, which really is just name, telephone, email, and site project address. The system will not let me save my bid, and you can see I don't have an ID number yet until I fill that information out. So let's do that. Jeff Test, there's my phone number. And then you're not done yet because you have to click Save Project Address or Site Project Address and then fill it out. And hit OK. In my test system, it's doing that weird thing with the menu. And then I'm going to go up to the top and hit Save for later. So it gives me a warning, the bid is not complete. Of course, I know that I haven't answered all those questions, but it does let me save it. You see the green in the top here, saving page? Now it's telling me all these questions I missed. Of course, we know that because we haven't answered any yet. Okay, so if I didn't have name, telephone, email, or this site project address, I wouldn't even get this far. So don't make that mistake, do that first. So this is just a sampling of the questions. It's not them in order as I showed before. You should have them prepared, and then you'll be able to copy paste or however you want to answer them. So here is a text type response, 2,000 characters max. So here is the title of my project. Okay, name of the airport, FAA code here. I'm just going to put in random numbers, street address. Okay, again, these are red stars, required fields. So let's just take a look at what happens when I hit save. So there's all these error messages on the top, and some of them will go away, of course, because it sees that I answered them, and now I'm missing 6, 7, 8, 10, and so on. Okay, this is a good time to get into, to log out and get back in to see that we can find our application that we started already. So I can go to, let's just say the home page. I can go back into Grants Management State, and I can do it either way, bid event search or bid response search. Bid response search, it shows you everything you've clicked on, you've bid on, and there's a, right here, it's hard to see maybe, but it says events bid on. If I just click that, I've got 15, of course this is a test account, but I can see if I go down here, DOT, there's air test. That's actually not the right one, it was the other one. But I can click on it that way and get into it. I'm not gonna do that, I'm gonna go here and do the same thing that I did when I started, which is go to bid event search, type the word air, click on, again, not the opportunity name, but the event ID, and I can see I have one in process bid. So we click on it, and that is the one. Of course, we've only done one. That is the one I want to view or edit. So there's a copy button. If you do want to submit multiple applications, I believe that's allowed, but they only would fund one. I think that's, correct me if I'm wrong on that one, guys. But if you did hit copy, that would give you a head start, and then you could just kind of change some of the answers. So I'm not going to do that here, obviously, but I'm going to click View Edit to get back into my application bid ID number 1. And it's where I left off, right? I answered these questions, and now I have some other questions. So here's one. Now here's a drop-down type list. Now, obviously, this just has 1, 2, 3, 4. In the real one, it's going to have the real councils. Same thing here for regions. It just has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're going to click the right region. So if you notice fields like this is just, we call it separator field. It's just kind of to break it up to show you the different sections. So I'm going to put in the owner salutation. So we'll just say Mrs. and then their first name. And we would, obviously, I don't have all the questions, first name, last name, title, phone number, email. Those will all be, as I said, in separate questions. You may wonder why that's done. It's for data reasons. When we can create reports, we can easily find, show us all email addresses for all owners, something like that. Okay, then there's some questions that are yes, no's, right? I'm not reading the question. You guys will do that. I'm just going to say, but this, they do say if your answer is no, your application is not eligible. So they kind of want you to hit yes there, or else there's no point in doing what you're doing. Again, here's another one that has a drop-down list. And then we have another question that requires text questions. So again, I might copy paste from Word. And then another one is a drop down. And then these last two here in my example are attachments. Now this one is a if necessary. So there's no red asterisk. I could still go here, enter file attachment response. I could click on upload. I can choose file. And go, I'm just going to grab a random document from my system here. I'm going to click upload. It's now uploaded it. You might want to put in a description. Here is the document. And that's it. You don't have to click add comments, click OK. So kind of a frustrating thing here. The system doesn't show you that, yes, you've done your upload for 22A. So I would certainly double check all uploads that I made. So I'm going to click save, and we've missed that last one, but I just want to do it just to show you. Save for later. Again, it's warning me it's not complete, and I've only missed that last one. Please upload both Excel and, right here, please upload both Excel and PDF versions of the budget worksheet. So I've missed that one. And let's just pretend we don't realize that. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do a text one instead. I'm going to delete this one. Let's do this one. So Excel and PDF versions. Now, that's two files. So if I click on upload, let's say this is my budget. I'll just do that. And I can also click add new attachments. If I do that, I get another line, and I can click upload, I can choose file, and I don't have any Excels in this field, but let's say I'll do this one, this Word doc. So pretend it's an Excel. So that's what this would look like. Of course, it would be your real budget. And then again, you don't need to put in comments, but you can click OK. So to this one, I've uploaded 2 responses. So let's hit save for later. I don't have to scroll to the top. I can also do it on the bottom. And I can click OK. So I'm going to leave 2 things blank. The question 18 and this unit bid price this is a field I mentioned that I'm not sure if it's going to require it or not. We're going to find out when I click the button. And if you remember that one slide, there's this event comments and attachments button. This shows any attachments that were provided to you as maybe templates or whatever by DOT, and of course there's nothing. So again, you don't have to click on it because there's nothing here. If there's some reason you need to add attachments though, there's an upload here just like we saw in the questions. So I'm only saying that if something in the future comes up and DOT realizes, oh, we wanted them to upload this and they sent you an update, that's where you could do it. But hopefully that won't be a thing, won't be an issue, and you can again ignore event comments and attachments. So we know I'm not ready, but let's pretend I think I'm ready. I'm going to try to submit my bid. So I'm going to hit save for later. Of course, it gives me that error already. I should have noticed that. But if I click submit bid, tries to do it, and it says errors have been found. Okay, well, what are my errors? Okay, I didn't do that one. So let's go down to that one. And I'm going to hit save for later. So it did give me the errors, the bid is not complete. So that, to me, yep, message not found. Okay, so that is a cryptic error, message not found, but it's related to this bid event number. So this is just the last thing you need to do, now we're confirming, is you have to type in the dollar amount that you're requesting. Now, the system's not really checking anything. It's not going to be a problem if you put, you know, $1, but whatever. I'm just going to put in $100,000 here. If I do save for later, that should satisfy the requirements, and I should have no errors. And if I scroll to the top, no errors. So before I submit it, I'm going to do one more thing, and you should do this, double check your attachments. Click on Enter File Attachment Response. The name hopefully is right, but you can click View, and you can see, okay, yep, this is the document I intended to upload. Good, I've double checked that. And then same thing for this next one. And again, you're going to have several attachments. So I go here, click on View, and make sure that it's the one I wanted. If it's not, click the Delete button, click the Add button, add a new one. Okay, so we're done. We're ready to submit our application, and I'm going to click Submit Bid. One thing I want to point out, it will not email you and say, you know, congratulations, you've submitted it. That did happen in the Grants Gateway, but it's not a thing here. So if I click Submit Bid, it says, are you done making changes? Because this is it. This is your last opportunity. And I'm saying yes, because I am done. My application is complete, and I want to submit it. Okay, so this should tip me off. Your bid has been successfully submitted. Again, you will not receive an email. So it's important to just kind of notice that, because that is your confirmation that you've submitted it. And if I hit OK, I think it brings me back to the search page. Yep. So let's look at it one more time. If I go into, again, search for the word error, and I click on it, and I see, oh, there's now one in process and submitted. So what is it? In process and submitted? It really should say and or, but notice I only have a view button here because I can't edit it because it's already been submitted. My bid status is posted, which means submitted. So I click on view, and it'll actually give me another error that says your bid is posted, no more changes are allowed. So that's it, it's locked in. So the last thing I wanted to point out, Lowell had said download a PDF or download your application. You can do that here. I don't know if it's going to work in our test system, but if you click on Bid Response PDF, I feel like it's not going to work in our test system because I've tried it before. No, I'm proven wrong. So this is that whole everything, all your questions, all your answers, and if they were PDFs that you attached, if I go to the bottom here, here are PDFs that were attached. It will not attach Excel documents in here. It will only attach things that you've uploaded as PDFs. That doesn't mean it's not there. It doesn't mean that it didn't work. It's just saying that just the way this document works, it doesn't include any Word or Excel documents. But it does tell me here in this kind of table of contents that I did upload a DOCX document, and that made it in there. So this is a good document to look at. I should have mentioned this before. I don't know if this works when you're live. So it might be worth trying to see by clicking this before you've submitted the application. Unfortunately, in our test system, I know that doesn't work, but it might work for you in the live system. And I apologize for not knowing the answer to that, but I'm just suggesting, hey, try that out. The reason I would try that out is because maybe you could get a better idea of, if you go down here, did I include all the attachments I wanted to? And do I want to review the questions and answers that I provided? So it does put in the budget and work plan here. It's all going to be blank because, of course, while it's in the PDF, it wasn't part of your actual application. Your budget is the actual Excel document that you uploaded and the PDF of that Excel. So I hope that explains that. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to see if there's any questions related to what I've gone through, or if we want to go through. Somebody did talk about funding for more than one project, so maybe if DOT could address that. And it looks like there's nothing else for me, so I'm going to stop talking and hand it back over to DOT.
Thanks, Jeff. So, John, are you seeing any questions? And Allison, could you go share and go to slide 29 for me, please?
Yeah, I might as well do my last slide too. I have one other slide, I think, if you want to go to that. Yeah.
Yeah, go to 28 for Jeff.
So the help desk. So if you're stuck with anything SFS related, you would send an email to the help desk. Yeah, you can call them, but we want things in writing. So I prefer to have, you know, the actual question problem written down so we can give you an answer in writing. Oftentimes, if you call, they're just going to put it in an email anyway. So it goes there first because some things are, let's say, account related or login related. That doesn't get as far as me or my team. So let them help it first, and if there's something that has to get escalated to our team, they do that, and we can help you with it. So if you have a question like, you know, this one file's not uploading, or I don't know how to do XYZ in my application, we would certainly be assigned that ticket and be able to help you. We're pretty quick on it, so, you know, if it takes an hour or two for it to kind of go in our queue, but, you know, we usually get to them within kind of, you know, 4 hours or so. But there is the SFS Coach, which is on the home page of your SFS login. That way, that page allows you to find every document, every video, every recording that we have related to how to work in SFS. And if you were to search for the words bid event or grant opportunity, you'll find the SFS user guide, which has all that information in there. So that's all I wanted to say there. Go ahead, John. Or Lowell.
Yeah, I'll take it. All right, so thanks, Jeff. Top takeaways. Final application, January 22nd at 5 p.m., not midnight, 5 p.m. I'm not staying up till midnight. And I don't want any applications on the 22nd, for God's sakes. Send them in early, please. All applications are submitted through SFS, so you're going to go into Grants Gateway, or maybe it won't even let you in anymore, but it's not there. It's in SFS. Make sure you get all your accounts set up, et cetera, et cetera. Do that. If you haven't already done it, like, do it now. Again, don't wait until the last day, please, please, please. Supporting materials are just as important as the justification. I actually didn't mention it, but there's different levels of match for depending on your emplacements at your airports. That did not change from the previous programs. Online training is available for SFS, and obviously there's a help desk, right? So any SFS questions, don't be afraid to ask. Don't wait. Don't spin your wheels. Just ask the question. They'll get back to you. They'll escalate it to Jeff if they need to, and his team will get back to you. If you have any questions for us, ask us. All right, next slide, please. So here's all our contact info. The Bureau's phone number is 518-485-7691. Our email is aviation@dot.ny.gov. Our website is at www.dot.ny.gov/aviation-grants. SFX questions or help desk at sfs.ny.gov. All right, so I'll go through the one question that I know was in the chat. John, you can go through any others. So the one question I did see in the chat was from Chautauqua County, and it was, can we like request adjustments to our MWBE percentages in the table that Dina showed? Their example was 6.9% was for Chautauqua County, which seemed high relative to neighboring cities. So that question's for Dina. I'm not going to put you on the spot, but if you'd like to answer, you can. Otherwise, we'll get back to get all these questions written out and shared.
Yeah, I can answer that.
Sure.
So the 6.9% was for the women's workforce participation. That was not a minority or women MBE or WBE goal. The 6.9 is for the workforce. So I wanted to make that clear. Hopefully that helps. And again, those are all based off of the county. Those are standard EEO goals. Those I don't believe can be adjusted, but if you're minority and women MBE or WBE goal, you're looking to adjust, like I said, at your pre-advertisement time, you can request a pre-advertisement waiver.
Okay, so you can request pre-advertisement waivers, but that slide that you showed, Dina, slide 10, it showed MWBE, SDVOB, EEO requirements, goals for participation of minorities. I think Chautauqua had 6.3%, I think. So that one, you're saying that can or cannot change?
That cannot change because that is your equal employment opportunity goal.
Got it.
So when you actually have a contract and you have folks working on your project, you know, like say you're building a new airport wing or something like that. So all the labor that is working on your project, you have to have so many women workforce hours working on your project. So hopefully that clarifies things.
Yep. Thanks, Dina. If you have any follow-up questions, obviously you can email us. All right, John, you want to go through any other questions you're seeing?
Yeah, we have a couple of questions asking for clarification whether it is one project would be awarded per airport, as some counties have multiple airports. So my understanding is that it is one per airport, but I'm not the expert, so like somebody.
Yeah, right. Exact. So yeah, limit is 2 applications per airport. Like if you got 2 airports in one county, for instance, it's not based on the owner, it's based on the airports. So 2 applications per airport is correct. Thanks, John.
Thanks a lot. Another question we have is we're looking to purchase 2 new plow trucks. Would that be 2 separate applications, or would they apply for both trucks in one application?
So that's however they want to kind of bundle it, right? It would be if the return on investment and benefit, right, if is more for 2 trucks, then you'd want to bundle it. If you think that there's a risk that it's too much, or that's an extra truck that we wouldn't really be using that much, you wouldn't want to bundle it. So that's the airport's call on whether they want to bundle it. But no, two pieces of equipment could be considered one application if you guys want to do that.
I have a comment if we have time. Can I make a comment?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I just wanted to say, since somebody brought up purchasing equipment, so with that, having been here for a few years now, I've seen a lot of applications where they're requesting the pre-advertisement waiver for equipment purchases. So you have the option to purchase equipment through the OGS, I forget what it's called. It's like the OGS database, or they've already gone through and looked at contracts with vendors like John Deere or other vendors that would provide equipment, plow trucks, things like that, and they've already negotiated discounts. So in addition with that, because OGS has already gone through the process of looking through the New York State databases to see if there were any minority or women-owned businesses that can provide that piece of equipment, and there are none. So if you purchase through OGS, it's another layer of a waiver, but it's called like an in-year exclusion, and basically you're excluded from those goals. And they really kind of only apply to like a one-time, like you have one piece of equipment that you're buying and nobody else sells it except maybe folks on this OGS list. So if you haven't already applied, you can go and do that, because then as you're doing your applications and looking through the pieces of equipment that you have to buy, kind of go through that already so that you can get a better estimate in your budget, because they do offer discounts already. So I just wanted to mention that.
No, that's a really good point. And sometimes it's the people referred as a Sourcewell contract. There's people other than Sourcewell that have the central contracts with OGS, but they already did the work for you. So if you use those, it's much easier. Sometimes
I just wanted to count out that I believe Sourcewell is different than OGS, though, because I think Sourcewell came from like Minnesota legislation or something like that. So I would encourage going through the OGS.
Yep.
It would just be easier as far as like meeting the goals, because I know that the waiver piece is already included in buying through OGS.
Yep, agreed. Go through OGS. There's different groups behind all those OGS contracts. I believe some of them are Sourcewell, but yeah, go through OGS. And then you don't have to worry about the MWBE goals because they already did them, or you have to worry about them, but they already did them. So, all right, John, what else do you have for questions?
And privately owned airports that are public use also use the OGS?
I believe we've answered that one before. I believe the answer is yes, but you can't quote me on that one. We'll get back to you on that one. I'm pretty sure we've answered that one, and it's been yes, but we'll confirm.
Okay, thank you. Another one for Dina is the EEO goals for the county where the project is located, opposed to the county a consultant firm is located in.
It's where it's the county where the project is located.
Thank you. All right, I believe that answers all the questions that are in the chat.
I see. Let me do one more. Let's see. I think it was. All right, from Chautauqua. Again, I don't know where I saw it. Anyway, it was 2 applications per airport, 1 award per airport. So again, if you got 2 airports in your county, for instance, you could put in 4 applications and you could get up to 2 awards. 1 award per airport. Go ahead, John.
I think we covered all the questions, but just to be sure, regarding the OGS lists, somebody asked about using federal GSA contracts or co-op Sourcewell. That'd be for Dina, I believe.
I'm not familiar with what the GSA contracts are, so is that something you guys could answer?
Yeah, we'll look into it and make sure it's in the GSA is a federal contract. So we'll get you answers on anything we can answer today in writing, and everything we have verbally given you to in writing, and put those all in the Q&A on our website.
I guess if I could just make one last point. So if it's a federal grant, then the MWBE and SDVOB goals don't apply because those are all state goals. If it's federal, it would be a DBE goal, which is a different program.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Dana. And again, we're gonna write out these questions.
One more
in the Q&A. Yes. Who is the owner referring to when it comes to a publicly owned airport, such as a state-owned airport? So, if the state owns it, New York State would be the owner, correct?
You got it.
The owner should also be listed on the airport master record for each airport.